Okay,
Okay.
we can start. Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon to everyone. Today we will introduce the module number 4, country-specific green practices. And this module aims at exploring country-specific green practices by examining how national policies, incentive, environmental challenges, and certification systems shape sustainable tourism across the three country partner of the project, that is Malta, Turkey, and Italy. This module will help you to understand how different regulatory and environmental contexts influence small and medium enterprise compliance, certification pathway, and the adoption of green practices in tourism. The module will be delivered through 3 lessons. Each lesson will be dedicated to one country. Today we begin with the first lesson. The lecturer is Professor Tonio Cini, and his speech is titled Malta and Gozo, Green Practices and Certification, which aims to exploring green practices, best cases, and sustainable strategies in Maltese tourism. Professor Cini is an experienced tourism executive with over 30 years of expertise in stakeholder engagement, policy coordination, event leadership, and sustainable tourism development. He currently serves as operation executive at the Malta Hotel and Restaurants Association and as administrator of the Mediterranean Tourism Foundation. In this role, he leads strategic initiatives, manages complex projects, and represents industry interests in national, European, and international contexts. As administrator of the Mediterranean Tourism Foundation, Tonio also oversees annual flagship events such as the Mediterranean Tourism Forum, bringing together delegates and leaders from across the region. This lesson will start 2 hours and will be followed by the lesson by Professor Ayjan on green practices in Turkey. The lesson, as you already know, will be recorded and made available for your future reference. So thank you, Tonio, and we can start with your lecture.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. You're hearing me, okay? Yes, okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Tomasina, for introducing me and introducing also the Mediterranean Tourism Foundation, which is one of the partner organizations supporting this project. I will be covering the first part, as Tomasina just mentioned, of this training session. Then I will pass to my colleague in Turkey, Yavcin, for the second session. So let me start by just adding something about the Mediterranean Tourism Foundation, which was established in 2013 through the other hat that I also wear, the Malta Hotels and Restaurants Association, which is the main industry association that represents the hotels and restaurants in Malta. Today we will be starting this new module. So welcome to module 4 of our C project, which by now you all know that stands for Sustainable Ecotourism Awareness Program, which is part of the Erasmus Plus funding programs. This first part we will focus specifically on Malta's country-level green practices, environmental certifications, and the unique challenges faced by one of the Mediterranean's smallest yet most known tourism-intensive destination in the Mediterranean region. During this presentation, I'll be sharing data released just a few weeks ago related to the full year 2025 statistics. So you will be seeing the freshest available numbers. So let me dive in by showing the agenda for the first part of our training. We will cover 6 major blocks. First, Malta's tourism landscape and why it's such a unique context. including the brand new 2025 statistics. Second, the National Policy Framework, Malta's Tourism Strategy 2021-2030, and the institutions behind it. Third, the 4 critical environmental challenges: water, waste, marine biodiversity, and carbon footprint. Fourth, the certification ecosystem, GSTC, Green Key, and the EU Ecolabel as they apply in Malta. Fifth, the financial incentives and grants available to operators. And finally, real case studies, the role of the Mediterranean Tourism Foundation, and what makes Malta distinctive compared to other Mediterranean destinations. So before we start, I need to share some rules. As a general rule, you always, keep your mics muted unless you would like to ask something. I encourage you to engage in the presentation, as your questions can be of importance to others and not only to yourself. No question is stupid, so feel free to ask. I know that many of you prefer to stay behind the black screen, but please contribute and show that you are still here following this presentation. I try to keep it lively as much as possible and even ask a question like the first one will be, how many of you, apart of those that already live in Malta or are working in Malta, have visited Malta in any time, recently? You can reply by answering on the chat or also unmuting your microphone, so feel free to do so. So are there any who never visited Malta? Not yet. Okay. Okay, so we have some people who never visited Malta. So let me give you a small video, enjoy a small video about Malta, so you will understand a bit more what it's all about.
Is there music or not?
Yes, there should be. There's no music coming?
No.
Oh, strange. Sorry about that. Camera. Is that it? There should be some music going on. But it's a short video, so it's just music, so it's only 30 seconds, So I don't know why it's not working. Sorry about that. There was no music then. Tomasina, no?
No, but it was, anyway, it was a beautiful overview of Malta.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't use much Teams. I use more Zoom, but I thought it would work, So, let's start with some statistics about Malta. In 2025, Malta welcomed 4 million tourists on a landmass of just 316 square kilometers. That's roughly the size of Philadelphia or Detroit or a small city within the European Union. There are 329 licensed hotels, and tourism contributes around 27% of the gross domestic product. Malta is one of Europe's most densely populated countries at 1,672 people per square kilometer. Now just imagine to add millions of tourists on top of that. The tourist to resident ratio is 12.7%, now 12.7 tourists for every resident, and is among the highest in the world. Malta has no rivers, minimal rainfall, and until very recently, 95% of its energy was imported via fossil fuels. That's the baseline you need to understand. Sustainability in Malta is not a nice to have. It's an existential issue. Why sustainability is non-negotiable? There are 3 reasons. First, carrying capacity. The Malta Hotels and Restaurants Association commissioned a carrying capacity study conducted by Deloitte Malta and warned that Malta would need approximately 4.7 million arrivals to fill the growing hotel bed stock to 80% occupancy. And that was assuming infrastructure could keep pace. As of 2025, we're already at 4 million. The study flagged infrastructure stress even at 2019 levels. The Blue Lagoon, our iconic natural site, was receiving 10,000 visitors per day at peak, trampling the seabed, polluting the waters. Second, market demand. 83% of travelers now value sustainable travel, according to Booking.com. High-value tourists, the ones we want, increasingly demand carbon accountability. If we don't adopt, we lose the premium segment. Third, EU regulations. The Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, EU Taxonomy, Green Deal, these aren't optional. And climate change impact, extreme heat, water stress, sea level rises is already here. Sustainability in Malta isn't a competitive advantage, it's a business continuity requirement. Now, let me share the numbers that were released by Malta Tourism Authority a few weeks ago in February 2026. These are the confirmed full year 2025 results. Over 4 million tourist arrivals, up by 12.9% over 2024, which was 3.56 million. Excuse me just 1 second because my boss is calling me. Sorry about this. Just 1 second. Sorry about that, but I had a call from my boss. So, I was just saying that in 2025, we had over 4 million tourist arrivals, up by 12.9% over 2024, 3.56 million. 3.9 billion in total tourist expenditure. That's an increase of 18.6% or 613 million more than the previous year. 25.4 million guest nights, up to 11%, meaning 2.5 million additional nights. And the spend per capita reached 971 euros, up by 5.1%. To put this in perspective, the United Nations Tourism Organization reports global growth of 4%. Europe at 3.8%, Southern Mediterranean at 3.3%. Malta grew at 12.9%, more than 3 times the global average. Look at this. Malta also recorded the largest increase in tourism nights in the entire European Union, a 10% year-on-year again. And in terms of tourism receipts versus 2019, Malta ranks 15th globally with a 73% increase. This is remarkable for a country this size. But here's the critical framing for our sustainability discussion. With 4 million arrivals on 316 square kilometers and 500,000 residents, Malta now hosts roughly 12.7 tourists per resident. Growth of this magnitude makes sustainable management not optional. It's the only path forward. So now the next slide is who came and who spent. Who are these 4 million visitors? The United Kingdom remains Malta's largest market at 20.9% share, and it was also the single biggest growth driver, adding 859,000 additional tourists and an extra 194 million in spending. Italy is second at 14.5%. But the standout story is Poland. Now Malta's third market at 9.6%, growing an extraordinary 39.1% year-on-year, adding 610,000 tourists and 91 million in extra spend. Other fast-growing markets: Ireland at 37.7%, the United States of America at 31.1%. The US market is also the highest spending per night. Switzerland and the Netherlands also rank among the highest spenders per night in destinations. On connectivity, Malta has 5.71 million one-way airline seats in 2025, up by 14% year-on-year. Crucially, off-peak winter seats grew 19%. That's significant for spreading demand and reducing seasonality pressure. Malta is now connected to 105 cities across 36 countries. The visitor profile shows 35.5% are aged 25 to 44 years old. 93% come on holiday, and 79% are first-time visitors, meaning Malta has tremendous potential for repeat visitation if the experience is right. Average length of stay is 6.3 nights. Looking ahead to 2026, Delta Airlines will launch a non-stop John F. Kennedy to Malta service from 7 June 2026. And the WTTC Global Summit will be held in Valletta in October. We also have new routes coming up, and this is a clear momentum that Malta is a hot destination. The question is, can we manage this growth sustainably? Malta's strategic framework is the Tourism Strategy 2021-2030, built on 3 principles: recover, rethink, revitalize. This is not just a recovery plan from COVID, it explicitly conditions recovery on sustainability and quality. The strategy features 13 strategic challenges, 11 strategic targets aligned with specific UN's SDGs, 22 individual strategies, 125 goals, and 245 measurable actions. It's comprehensive, but the central shift is simple: from volume to value, quality over quantity. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or better known as OECD, released a policy paper with 37 customized sustainability indicators developed specifically for Malta, along with a 5-level lever toolkit for evidence-based policy. This is now the monitoring backbone. Malta Tourism Observatory tracks these indicators in real time. It's integrated with the tourism satellite account. This isn't aspirational, it's operational. On climate, Malta committed of reducing the net greenhouse gas emissions by at least 55% by 2030, and is committed to the European Union's collective target of reaching carbon neutrality by 2050. To align with these ambitious goals, Malta has revised its low-carbon development strategy and the National Energy and Climate Plan, covering all licensed accommodation establishments in Malta. The decarbonization of the tourism industry post-COVID-19 support, or in simpler terms, DETOX Interreg project, is working on decarbonization toolkits for the hospitality sector in order to support the recovery of the EU tourism infrastructure in a sustainable and low-carbon manner. In doing so, DETOX aligns with EU long-term policies for the decarbonization of the economy. During the project, best practices for sustainable tourism are identified and shared across partner regions, including Slovenia, Greece, Malta, Finland, Italy, Bulgaria, Hungary, and the Netherlands. Partners also work to enhance regional policies that support decarbonization of the tourist industry through capacity building and the adoption of successful practices from other regions. The key point: recovery is explicitly conditioned on sustainability. We're not going back to volume-driven tourism. We can't. So, Malta's green tourism ecosystem involves 6 key elements. Entities. Let me walk you through them because understanding who does what is critical for accessing support. Malta Tourism Authority is the central body. They endorse GSTC, Green Key, and the EU Ecolabel. In December 2023, MTA signed a formal MOU with both GSTC and Green Key to promote sustainability certification across all accommodation properties. Malta Enterprise is the government's business support agency. They provide the financial incentives, the Smart and Sustainable Grant, energy efficiency aid, and business development schemes. I detail these later on in this presentation. The Energy and Water Agency, EWA, runs crucial programs: the Guest Project for guest houses, energy audit schemes for SMEs, and the MHRA and We Make water and energy management programs. The Measure Support Division under the Ministry for European Funds implements the EU-funded retrofit scheme under Malta's Recovery and Resilience Plan, up to 5 million per undertaking for building energy efficiency. The scheme is currently closed, but monitor fondi.eu for when it is reopening, as it's quite an interesting scheme. The Regulatory for Energy and Water Services manages feed-in tariffs and solar PV permitting, and Transport Malta operates EV purchase schemes, LPG conversion support, the FPF retrofitting, and PV installations on heavy-duty transport vehicles. 6 entities, each has a role. The challenge for SMEs is navigating this ecosystem. That's where trainers like you can come in. You are the connectors. Before we discuss certifications and grants, we need to confront the reality. Malta faces 4 critical environmental challenges. Under these challenges is essential because they directly map to the GSTC Section D environment criteria that hotels must address for certification. These aren't abstract environmental concerns. They are business continuity risks. Challenge 1. Water scarcity. Malta is the EU's most water-stressed country. 60% of our water comes from desalination. Tourism adds 7% to total demand. Water crisis. 7% waste increase in 2023. The lowest recycling rate in the EU at just 11%. Tourist-heavy areas are overwhelmed. Marine and biodiversity loss, Posidonia meadow degradation, Blue Lagoon damage, Natura 2000 sites under pressure. Carbon footprint, 95% of energy historically from fossil fuels, with aviation emissions compounding the problem. Let me go down into each challenge. I spend more time on the first one and the last one. They are the Malta most pressing issues. Water scarcity deserves special attention because it's Malta's most pressing environmental issue. Malta has no rivers and no permanent freshwater sources. About 60% of water supply comes from reverse osmosis desalination plants, which is energy intensive. 2023 and 2024 was recorded as the driest rain period in decades. The groundwater aquifer is under severe stress from over-extraction. Look at this breakdown. 60% desalination, requiring massive energy input. 35% groundwater, being depleted faster than it recharges. Only 5% rainwater harvesting, minimal contribution. Now add tourism. The average tourist consumes twice as much water daily as a resident. Resident about 100 liters per day, tourist 200 plus liters per day. Swimming pools, hotel laundry, irrigation. It all compounds. And summer peak tourist coincides with the lowest rainfall period, creating maximum stress. For hotel operators, this means water conservation isn't just environmental virtue. It's a business continuity issue. The GSTC criteria explicitly require water risk assessment, consumption monitoring per guest night, and stewardship goes in high-risk areas, which Malta absolutely qualifies as. This isn't optional, it's as essential. So what are hotels doing? Let me share 4 pioneer examples. Intercontinental Malta installed an on-site reverse osmosis and bottling system. Impact eliminates 240,000 plus plastic bottles annually. That's both water security and water waste reduction. Paradise Bay Hotel implemented a grey water recycling system, achieving 100% system water recovery. They use grey water for irrigation and non-potable applications. Payback period 12 months. Shara Gardens, it's part of Shara Collection Group, implemented rainwater harvesting and retention techniques from farm irrigation. They also have an aquaponics system, a closed-loop water use model. And increasingly, hotels are adopting smart metering, monitoring consumption per guest night, real-time leak detection, and behavior insights for conservation. The EWA Guest project piloted audits in 30 of Malta's 130 guest houses. Key findings: operators want sector-specific schemes and guest engagement tools. They understand the problem, they need practical support. This innovation proves it's doable. Now let's talk waste. Malta's recycling rate of approximately 11% is the lowest in the EU, where the average is 49%. Waste generation increased 7% in 2023. The landfill is approaching capacity. Localities like St. Julian, Sliema, and Msida, all tourist-heavy areas, face severe waste pressure. Look at this. In tourism zones, 65% general waste, 25% or 20% organic, mostly not separated, 10% recyclables, low capture rate, 5% hazardous. Why is this happening? Limited recycling infrastructure in tourist area. Inconsistent waste separation systems. Seasonal tourists creates demand spikes. High single-use item consumption, especially in food and beverage. Lack of composting facilities for organic waste. So what's being done? WasteServe Malta has undergone a peer review through Interreg Europe for Circular Economic Strategies. The Detox project identified waste separation in hospitality as a top priority. And in July 2025, political parties started discussing a proposal to have carrying capacity limits for waste, specifically in tourist zones. The Green Transition Workshop identified waste reduction as a key sector-specific target. For hotels seeking certification, all three labels, GSTC, Green Key, and EU Ecolabel, have mandatory waste management criteria. Waste measurement per guest night, separation systems, food waste reduction plans, elimination of single-use items, staff training on waste management. The industry opportunities are clear. Partner with WasteServe for commercial recycling. Implement food waste tracking. AI solutions are emerging. Shift to bulk amenities. Eliminate single dose. Composing for properties with gardens. Guest engagement programs. Gamification works. Now let's go on the marine and biodiversity loss. Malta's third critical environmental challenge, the marine biodiversity loss, is intimately connected to our tourism sector. The Posidonio Oceana meadows, these underwater seagrass meadows, are absolutely critical to the Mediterranean marine health. They are not just plants, they are the lungs of the Mediterranean, producing oxygen, stabilizing sediments, and providing nursery habitats for fish species. However, we are witnessing their alarming decline due to coastal development, anchor damage from boats, and water pollution intensified by tourism activities. The University of Malta has launched a seagrass reforestation project that's now expanding to Aura as of October 2025, attempting to reverse decades of damage. This is science-based restoration at work. The Blue Lagoon on Comino Island became a stark example of what happens when visitor numbers exceeds ecological capacity. At peak season, this pristine marine area was receiving, as I already mentioned, 10,000 visitors per day, trampling the seabed, polluting waters, and devastating the fragile ecosystem. In 2025, the Malta Tourism Authority imposed a visitor cap, reducing numbers to 6,000 per day from 10,000, and implemented ferry restrictions. Looking ahead, the Comino strategic plan designed by Mitzi Studio includes ecological facilities, controlled access points, and restoration programs scheduled for 2026. The Malta Tourism Authority is treating this as a pilot project for managing sensitive natural sites. Malta Natura 2000 network, our protected areas designated under European law, are facing severe stress from trampling, soil degradation, litter accumulation, and noise pollution, predominantly driven by unregulated tourism activities. Organizations like Nature Trust Malta and FE Malta are running the Coast Trust projects specifically aimed at marine protection through education, enforcement, and community engagement. The private sector is joining too. For example, AX Odyssey Hotel partnered with Nature Trust Malta for biodiversity conservation initiatives. Why does this matter for business? Marine biodiversity is not just an environmental issue, it's an economic asset. Healthy marine ecosystems attract diving tourism, snorkeling experiences, and premium eco-conscious travelers. Degraded coastlines repel exactly the high-value tourists we're trying to attract. Protecting our seas is protecting our tourism competitiveness. Why? Well, I have a question from Vincent de Silvia. Why the recycling rate is so low, correct? So the issue is that there needs to be more support to the industry. The industry does not, many of the hotels are currently not doing any separation, waste separation, especially for organic and other plastic and everything. So this is something that is being addressed and it's being looked into, but unfortunately that is one of the main issues because like municipality waste that includes households, tourism and commerce differ from what they can do. The residents are more participating in separation, but the industries, the commerce and are still low. So this has to be addressed. That is one of the reasons why the recycling is still low in Malta. I hope I answered your question, Vincent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. So let's go on carbon footprint. The challenge number 4 is carbon footprint. Malta faces a unique challenge here. As an island, 93 kilometers from Sicily, we're aviation dependent. 95% of our 4 million tourists arrive by air. There's no viable ferry alternative for mass tourism. Each arrival carries a significant carbon footprint, on average 1.2 tons of CO2s from Europe. Multiply that by 4 million and you see the scale. Historically, 95% of our energy comes from imported fossil fuels. The interconnector with Sicily has been operational since 2015, but it's fossil dependent. We're making progress. Renewable energy share reached 17.2% in 2024. That's tripled in 10 years, but we're still heavy carbon intensive. Tourism adds significant seasonal carbon load. Summer electricity demand spikes 40% during peak time. The government has committed all 321 licensed hotels to carbon neutrality by 2050, aligned with the EU Green Deal. 55% of the GHG reduction by 2030 versus 2005 baseline. Carbon neutrality by 2050 for all 321 licensed hotels. The SunX Malta Climate Friendly Travel Registry launched in 2020 allows hotels to publicly commit to climate action and track emission reductions. The Malta Tourism Authority conducted a carbon footprint study in 2022, auditing water and electricity consumption across all the 321 hotels to establish baselines for transition plans. This is now a mandatory reporting framework. 252 megawatts of solar PV installed by end of 2024. That's 456 watts per capita, one of the highest densities in Europe. This isn't optional anymore. Let me share how hotels are responding. These are Malta's carbon reduction leaders. 19 rooms boutique hotel in Valletta is working to become Malta's first carbon neutral hotel. The challenge: comprehensive sustainability approach within a heritage building. You can't just tear down walls and install modern systems, but they are proving it's possible. As I already mentioned, Paradise Bay Hotel, which is in the northern part of Malta, it's installed a 200,000 solar PV investment, which covers 70% of their energy needs. Thus, they are saving 60,000 per year. Payback period in 3.5 years. That's a 29% annual return, better than most investments. And that's before the Malta Enterprise Grant, which covers up to 50%. With the grant, payback drops under 2 years. Their grey water system is reducing 220 tons of CO2s reduced annually. Corinthia Hotel Groups engaged KPMG for a full ESG strategy and CSRD compliance. Their PV panels generated 1,832 megawatt-hours across Malta hotels in 2023, avoiding 711 tons of CO2 emissions. They are using AI-based food waste monitoring in their Lisbon properties and scaling to others. They have sustainability champions embedded in every hotel. This is what corporate-level sustainability leaders look like. Intercontinental Malta eliminated 200, as I already mentioned, 240,000 plastic bottles annually through their on-site reverse osmosis and bottling system. That reduced both carbon, transport emission, and waste. The von der Heyden Group is targeting 40% emissions reduction by 2030 across their portfolio. They've completed portfolio-wide energy audits and are rolling out solar PVs in phases. So you don't need to be a 5-star hotel to start. Small-scale solar, LED retrofits, and smart HVAC system deliver quick wins. That's the contest and the challenges. Now let's talk solutions. For 20 years, Malta had its own in-house Malta Tourism Authority eco-label. That era is over. In December 2023, Malta Tourism Authority signed a Memorandum of Understanding with both the Global Sustainable Tourism Council, GSTC, and Green Key International to endorse 3 international recognized certifications. Here's where we stand. GSTC, we have 9 hotels certified. This is Malta's priority, and there is also a partnership with the Malta Hotels and Restaurants Association, where I also work, to support this certification. Green Key, we have 11 hotels plus 1 guest house certified, operating in 90 plus countries with 8,500 plus establishments globally, most accessible for SMEs. EU Eco-Label, currently we have 5 hotels certified in Malta, managed by the Malta Competition and Consumer Affairs Authority. Strong EU market recognition, especially for procurement. But you have to understand this. Out of 321 licensed hotels in Malta, only about 25 are certified under any of these 3 schemes. That's roughly 8%. So the gap is enormous, and the growth potential is significant. How does this compare with our partners within this project? Malta, as I said, is within 8%. Turkey is 15%, but they have a mandatory that all establishments need to be certified by 2030. Italy, 12%, and Spain, 80%. So Malta started late, but the 2023 MOU capitalized growth. Reaching 25% certification, that's 80 hotels, is achievable in 3 years within the right support. And that's exactly why this program is about. So let's go on GSTC. The GSTC is Malta's priority certification, and for good reason. Think of it as the golden standard, not because it's the hardest, but because it's the most comprehensive and globally recognized. It's structured around 4 pillars with a total of 42 criteria and 167 performance indicators. Section A, Sustainable Management, 13 criteria, 48 indicators. This covers your sustainability policy, legal compliance, monitoring systems, staff training, customer satisfaction, and marketing honesty. Section B, Socio-economic benefits. 9 criteria, 32 indicators, local employment, community engagement, local sourcing, human rights, labor standards, visitor engagement with local culture. Section C, Cultural heritage. 4 criteria, 14 indicators. Heritage protection, intellectual property, visitor management at heritage sites, authenticity in cultural representation. And Section D, Environment, 16 criteria, 73 indicators, sorry. This is where Malta's unique challenges are directly addressed. Water conservation, energy efficiency, GHG emissions reduction, waste management, biodiversity protection, pollution control, that is light, noise, water, and air. The critical advantage of GSTC. It's non-prescriptive and performance-based. It tells you what outcomes you must achieve, not how. This is crucial for Malta because a water conservation measure that works in Norway won't work on a Mediterranean island with 60% desalination dependency. It allows adaptation to local conditions, flexibility for heritage buildings, small properties, diverse context. GSTC doesn't certify directly. It accredits certification bodies. This ensures independence and rigor. For Malta, Royal Cert is the accredited certification body. Certification costs for Malta hotels range from $750 per year for boutique properties to $1,300 per year for 5-star hotels. That includes the accredited certification, audit, reporting, and non-conformity review. These fees are offset by Malta Enterprise grants. You can get up to 50 to 70% co-funding for certification costs under the Business Development Scheme. AX hotels, specifically AX de Pellis and AX de Victoria and Slima, became Malta's first GSTC certified hotels in November 2024, led by Claire Zamit Shwireb, certified by Oral Cert. They prove the pathway is achievable. Let me visualize the GSTC structure so you can understand how the 42 criteria are organized. For Malta, Section D is where our unique challenges, as I already mentioned, are, and are directly addressed. Every hotel pursuing GSTC needs to understand Section D is not optional, it's a core. Let me know if there are any questions, okay, so I can go into further details on this because there's a lot of information that I can share on this. So the other two certifications are Green Key. Green Key is run by Foundation for Environmental Education, FEE, the same organization behind the Blue Flag Beach program many of you know. It's available not just to hotels, but also to hostels, campsites, restaurants, attractions, and conference centers. The criteria cover 13 areas: environmental management, staff involvement, guest information, water, energy, washing and cleaning, food and beverage, waste, CSR, indoor environment, green areas, and new in 2024 and 2025, innovation and climate action. The structure divides into imperative, mandatory, and guideline criteria, which national adaptations allowed. Its SDGs aligned through FE's Gaia 2030 strategy. For Malta, hotels with 16 to 100 rooms pay 550 per year plus 410 audit fees. Guest house have a lower fee tier. Now we turn to EU Ecolabel. Is the European Commission's official environmental label. In Malta, it's managed by the Malta Competition and Consumer Affairs Authority. We call it MCCAA. The key requirements are environmental management system plus staff training. Energy, appliance meet energy class requirements, auto switch off systems up to 100% renewable energy. Water flow rate thresholds, no daily linen change policy. Chemicals, EU Ecolabel cleaning products preferred, hazardous substance restrictions. Waste, no single dose items, mandatory separation. Cost is about 800 euros application fee in year 1 and 500 euros in year 2 and 3, valid for 3 years. Audit in year 1. All 3 certifications share common ground. An establishment can pursue any one or multiple certifications. GSTC is the broadest, EU Ecolabel is most prescriptive, Green Key is most accessible for smaller properties. Malta started late but is accelerating. And the 2023 MOU with GSTC and Green Key capitalized growth. So things are moving finally on that line. So we've been 1 hour. Shall we have a 10-minute break? Sorry, I'm just seeing now your question. Do GSTC certificate costs vary significantly from country to country based on what? Carla, the agreement was reached between MHRA and Malta Tourism Authority, and we have asked that there will be this diversity of prices on different categories. And to tell you the truth, I did not check if other countries have followed suit, but we have managed with GSTC to get this type of arrangement for payments. Unfortunately, like EU Ecolabel, it's, as I just mentioned, it's 800 euros per year, whatever, if it is a 12-roomed boutique hotel or if it is a 200 or 300-room hotel. So unfortunately, there is no difference between one another. But for the GSTC, yes, there is this type of arrangement. Maybe Mavjin will share how it is within their Turkey from their side, because to tell you the truth, I did not check on that. So sorry about that. Shall we have a 10 minutes break?
Okay, Professor Cini, thank you very much. And we will see again in 10 minutes. Is it okay?
Yes, very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Cini.
Okay, just a second. So. Okay, you're seeing the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello. May I do some questions, please?
I did not understand. Sorry.
Can I do some questions?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Better, yes.
Okay, sorry, I had the head. So my first question is about something that
you told at the starting of the presentation. You told that there is an high potential for revisiting tourists for Malta. But I'm not sure if the situation is the same now. A few years ago, we had some data coming from the feedback from tourists leaving Malta after the first stay. And as I know, the feedback was that for some reasons, they were pretty sure they will not come back to Malta. I'm not sure if you know about this data.
No,
Maybe
did
it
not.
was maybe 3 years ago. Yeah. There was a public speaking about tourism, the situation,
Beh,
and the main hotels in Malta
L'unica cosa, per voi è un problema se io sono...
continue, Tiziana, continue.
Oh, sorry. Yes, and the main the main hotel, the directors shared this feedback. The feedback, for example, came for, I may say it was Ramla, for example, you know, or other big hotels, and it was related for a specific target of tourism, the elderly and people, you know, retired, something like that. Those people went outside of the hotels, and you know, there are many projects ongoing,
Yes,
and
at Ramla.
sometimes, you know, there are excavations, there are block in the street. Some people have to use some tool to walk, you know. So they got they chosen Malta because, you know, there is a huge marketing on nature, landscape, the cultural heritage, you know. And when they came and they went out, and sometimes trying to move, walking or going a bit around, the feedback was scary for them. But they had also practical problem to move, to go around, and something like that. That was a feedback, was an important feedback from, I'm curious if it was addressed in some way.
No, so let's start. You mentioned Ramla, okay, if I'm correct. Yes?
I remember Ramla was one of the participators to the public speaking, was very important, was very nice.
Okay.
But don't focus on Ramla. I mean,
All right. Okay. Yes. No. So basically, as I mentioned in my presentation, we have St. Julian's, Lima, and Pacheville, which are heavy dependent tourism areas. And unfortunately, but it's also the business, there is a lot of construction going on.
Yeah.
The hotels have made a lot of upgrades, have upgraded their facilities, and the reason is that, as I mentioned also, one of the strategies is that we are looking at quality tourism rather than quantity, okay? But unfortunately, this is not being reproduced outside the hotels. The hotels, when you go in hotels, especially certain hotels, they have all the amenities, all the facilities, and all the services that a quality tourist would like to have. But unfortunately, the infrastructure, which I also mentioned in my presentation, the infrastructure is not moving with pace. To add
So
on
there
to
is,
this problem.
so
to
there is
add on-
still this misalignment. So the strategy is to keep them inside the hotel and to invest in the amenities inside the hotel.
What we are doing is this. We are trying to, not we are trying, we are pressuring the authorities that the quality has to be 360 degrees. And it involves, apart the hotels, which are doing their part, and with all the schemes that I am also mentioning here, the government has to give his part, and we cannot, keep on bringing more tourists and not investing in the infrastructure. We have already a problem of traffic.
Yes,
we have already a problem of waste, and we have also a problem of security. And the most important thing of a country to be attractive is that it is a safe country. Today, if I tell you I will give you a free ticket to go to Jordan, I think you will think it 3 times, correct, Tiziana? I don't think that you will go, but Jordan is a very beautiful country. It's a very amazing country. If I tell you to go to Dubai today, you will tell me, I wish I go, but not right now, correct? And everybody says that Dubai is one of the safest countries. It's one of the cleanest countries. We saw a lot of social media videos that people walk with their socks to show how clean it is, with white socks. But right now, with the situation you have, don't think that you will go right now. Give me 2 months, 3 months times to see what's going to happen. And that is all about, this safety and the security of a country. So things are always irrespective to that. So what we are doing is this with the strategy, and in fact, on the 27th of February, the government has launched the Vision 2050, of Malta, which is a very positive thing. We have contributed to that as Malta Hotels and Restaurants Association. And this is the way forward. We need to have a vision. We need to have a direction. And things don't happen during the night. And it will also include community. We have to, first of all, when you travel to a country, like if I come to Italy, I want to live the Italian life. We like to live we want the Italian food. We want the Italian experience. And that is all about even in Malta. When you come to Malta, you need to have the experience of the Maltese. You need to have the experience of an island. And if that is lost, every country will lose. There is no way, So we need to improve the facilities, to upgrade our infrastructure, and to keep it safe. So those are the most important thing. And next point is sustainability. Every product has to be sustainable. We cannot just do something for a temporary solution that is no longer acceptable. It has to be with a vision. It has to cover, many years to come.
Yeah.
And that is something that we have to look into. Tell me, Tiziana.
So I'm thinking about what's happening, for example, in Melilla. I live in Melilla. For example, when you have those big resorts, all inclusive, they have a few many restaurants inside. What unfortunately happens is that the local restaurant, the small one, the traditionals, keep striving to survive, because the tourists, even if they are 1,000 to 3,000 inside the premises in the hotel, they spend all the time there inside, So even the local restaurant, they suffer.
I can add something with that. You are mentioning like the Sea Bank and the San
this is
Antonio,
big.
These are big hotels, but this is the same. I can compare it with luxury cruise lines. When you have cruise ships coming to a country, they are creating a lot of pressure on the country on that day, because you know how many people they carry, but how much they spend when they come, because they have all inclusive on the boat.
Yes,
So
exactly.
they will not go and eat in a restaurant. They will not go and because they will say, yes, I paid for it on the ship, and I will take it free from the ship. Inverted commas, it's free.
They buy souvenirs,
but they come, all
inside.
together with the coaches, all in one place, all together. They come for a tour. They stay together. They don't even venture around, but they create a lot of pressure. So this is things like it's happening in Dubrovnik. Dubrovnik is one of the places that is facing a lot of this type of pressure, that a lot of people are going there at one go with ships and everything, and even Venezia. So that Venezia right now have implemented a lot of restrictions. Even you have to pre-book before you go in. And these are things. So when we're looking at mass tourism, when we look at over tourism, we as MHRA and the Mediterranean Tourism Foundation would always reply, no, it's better managed tourism. That is the most important, because mass tourism comes when you leave everything going by itself. It's no longer, before we used to say, the business will drive itself. Okay, but that is wrong. It's no longer acceptable. The governments are there to be politicians and also to take decisions. Who is in government is being elected to take a decision, and the decision has to be a positive, and a negative one has to always be informative. They have to have the information from the stakeholders like us here, so they can understand. And that was one of the reasons that I will also mention in my presentation, that we did a carrying capacity study for the Maltese Islands for tourism. Okay. And that is the data, because you cannot have decisions, you cannot take decisions without the data. The data is the most important thing that one has to have in order to take actions. And in fact, one of the actions that was taken last year by the Malta Tourism Authority through the Minister of Tourism, who is also currently the Deputy Prime Minister of Malta, is to restrict the impact on Blue Lagoon Comino. If you know Malta, you know what I'm mentioning. Blue Lagoon, everybody goes there during the summer. And it was taking up, when we were doing our carrying capacity study, up to 10,000 people per day, on that small area. So you can imagine the impact that there was. Fortunately, through the presentations that we did with carrying capacity study that was commissioned with Deloitte, the government took action, and from 10,000 for the time being, it reduced it to 6,000. Okay. So that is something which is positive. So the government responded. It did not go down to 4,000 or 2,000 or 1,000. The reason why is because, there is always votes. Government are there elected with votes. So, they have to balance between action and being re-elected. The thing is, every government, after 3, 4 years or 5 years, they have to call an election and they want to be re-elected. So this is something that we have always to look into balancing and addressing. So, we have to look at all the sphere, not just, say, yes, this is the right thing to take, but, politicians are there to be re-elected. So you cannot expect that things will change during the night, but at least there is some action going on. And this is not only for Malta, this is all for all countries in Europe and all countries in the world, Tell me.
I have a question. Expectations are very important because, when you, for example, chose to come to Malta for an holiday, usually you have been informed that through the marketing, for example, the main marketing companies. In my opinion, looking at the marketing message, that is very winning, because we see millions of tourists coming to Malta. It's still depicted as I told you, a traditional, very green, quiet, natural destination. But as we know, we live in Malta, we experience Malta every day. It's a very fast country. So when these tourists come, spending 1 week usually, and they spend huge time in traffic or in a bus or, many stuff blocked and something like that. It's like we can expect a feedback that is not 100% stunning, positive, You know what I mean? So we know the marketing pointing the green, quiet, large sometimes area to enjoy and is winning. But are we are not realistic today, as Malta is, is growing as a country, as population, as traffic, whatever.
Yes, I understand, but this is not reflected in reality. I know what you are trying to say, but a few weeks ago, we had the presentation of the Malta Tourism Authority, and they are the people to have all the statistics and all the information in their hands. And the tourism satisfaction of the country is not that as much as you are pushing it, otherwise, there will not be repeated tourists. And tell me.
I'm not sure about the rate of the repeating tourists. What I'm seeing and feeling, and you can touch it, is the feedback that you can read about many channels, even other country, and it's quite realistic. I mean, as I told you, they come, like a good example, they want to rent a bike or they want to walk, and they expect a very quiet destination, green. When they stay, for example, I want to say just an example, 1 hour, 2 hours at the bus stop with 40 degrees. 40
these are
degree.
the challenges. That's what I mentioned
terrible,
before.
eh?
The infrastructure is not moving with the pace of the number of residents and even tourists that we have. And that's what I mentioned in my presentation when I said that we have the percentage tourism in relation to residents is quite high, 12.7%. So 12.7 for every tourist, for every resident, we have 12.7 tourists, and which is quite high, and it's extremely high. And these are things that we are wanting to address, and there is what comes into play this program. Sustainability. It's that we need to address these things by being innovative, doing the research, getting the data, and that's what I'm sharing today. I'm sharing all the data with as much as possible with the latest information I managed to collect, so that you have to make your informative decisions, and that is the way how it works, around. Through this program, I'm not going to solve the problems that we have in Malta, not even in Turkey or in Italy and everything. Otherwise, I will be elected prime minister tomorrow morning, if I manage to do that. But I don't think so that will happen. But for sure, these are things that not everybody comes here to have a quiet holiday, because we have also the generation that I mentioned of people from 25 to 40 years old. They come for parties, so they come for noise. And that is something which it is not in relation with quality tourism, so this is something, but we need to balance. Like another problem that we are facing is during summer, that we have a big industry of English language schools. And what they are doing, these schools, is that they pre-book the seats of the flights during summer. So because the earlier they book, they get a better rate. So they just book 30 seats, 40 seats, 50 seats, for their students. And these students are, 16-year-olds to 20, 24-year-olds. But just imagine, I saw them with my eyes, a group of 5 students, these of English language school, they buy one Coca-Cola and share it between them. So that is not quite a quality tourism, it's more quantity number, and they are taking a seat. And when you have an island like ours, which is aviation dependent, which is the connectivity, it's over 90% of connectivity with Malta through airports, through airlines. Every seat is quite important for us, So just imagine that if a student who does not have any money is taking that seat, rather than when the quality tourist comes and try to book and he cannot find a seat, what he will do, he will go to Sardinia because he found a seat to there, or he will go to Istanbul, or he will go to Tenerife Islands, So he looks into other destinations where he can find a seat. And that is a problem that we are also trying to address, because it's how can you address that? It's not easy, because I'm not going to tell, English language schools, close your school in summer, because for them, that's the business. That's the maximum business they have. So this is the biggest decision that a politician and the industry has to take. We need to balance, and we need to look into the global aspect of it, So, but more than that, I cannot tell you. I'm not going to try to find solutions here. These are the problems that we are talking, and I can assure you that we have been discussing these quite a long time, and hopefully things are moving. But I'm not pretending that will be solved within the next few years. And even the construction that we have in Malta is quite overboard. Everywhere you go with construction. And it's a pity, it's a pity because after all, it's a beautiful island, as I'm sure you agree on that.
Yeah, but for example, there are very, very sensitive issue about it. For example, it happened to me recently in Bugiba. There is a renovation project in the central area of Bugiba.
The square.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was an old lady, English, with a tool to work, and she was going around the same street for 1 hour because she was completely lost. She was was not able to go to the hotel because she was stuck and there were steps, stairs. It was very difficult. What I did as a resident, I tried to help. There was the police and I told them, please help because she cannot go. She was a very old lady, but still enjoying traveling and coming to Malta. But she was very under stress.
Yes.
So, these are very...
Tiziana, I have to ask that we have to continue because in 20 minutes, Turkey will invade us. And
no problem, sure.
Okay. Avjin is
no
already looking at the time and she is really keen to start her presentation.
No worry, thank you.
And even we need to keep the others, on time.
Thank you.
Okay, I still have another 14 slides or even less because the last slide is thank you only, so it's a bit less. But feel free to ask questions. I will try to go through them as much as possible. Okay, so let me continue with the presentation. Piera, the screen is showing, correct?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so now I'm jumping related to money, because after all, money is the most important thing. Because without money, in Malta we say latanna ul azbuz, you don't even kiss, you don't have money. So sustainability requires investment. And the good news about Malta is that Malta has some of the most generous co-funding schemes in the Mediterranean. Malta Enterprise offers 3 flagship schemes. And let me highlight these, the top ones. The Smart and Sustainable Grant, it's 50% of co-funding up to 100,000 euros. Let me break that down. If you invest 100,000 in solar PV systems, you get back 50,000 euros back. And if you are in Gozo, you add another 10 to 20%, which is the sister island of Malta. So that's up to 70% co-funding. The requirement for this project must reduce your carbon footprint by at least 10%, verified by a competent person's report. That's not an arbitrary number, it's a measurable, achievable, and directly aligned with Malta's 2030 targets. What it covers: replacement or modification of machinery, building management systems, smart HVAC systems, solar PV installations, grey water systems, and energy efficiency equipment. If you remember, I already mentioned these, like Paradise Bay Hotel, which is in the north of Malta, which did these installations and invested a lot in these things. And the payback that I already mentioned is, with all the investment that they did, in 2 years, with the support of Malta Enterprise, they will be paid back. So that's quite an interesting concept. The energy efficiency aid is the second one in the line and has no cap on assistance. Small enterprises get 50%, medium enterprises get 40%, large enterprises get 30% of eligible cost. The requirement is a minimum of 10% energy saving verified through a certified energy audit. Then we mentioned the business development scheme supports project up to 200,000 under the de minimis, covering new projects, expansion and engineering. This can also cover certification costs. And as I already mentioned, remember projects in Gozo receive a 10 to 20% tax credit on top under Smart and Sustainable scheme. The retrofit scheme also offers higher unit for costs for Gozo investments, 440 per meter squared or 300 euros per meter squared for micro small enterprises. So that's double peripherally gets double support. Project must reduce carbon footprint, as I mentioned. So these are quite an interesting concepts. The aid is there and can be cashed, granted, tax credited, or a combination. So these are quite the Malta Enterprise is our most look after entity that most of the businesses look at, and these are important that you look into this. You have at the bottom of the presentation you have also where you can contact. So as trainers you should look into further details of this project, of these schemes. Then we go for the next supports. We have the Energy and Water Agency that runs several crucial schemes. Their energy audit scheme for SMEs offer 100% refund under Scheme A or 70 to 80% under Scheme B, depending on company size and state aid history. His hospitality businesses under NAC Code 1 qualify for grants up to 5,000. There's an additional 500 euros refund for implementing one of the audit's recommendations. The guest project was particularly insightful. It targeted 30 guest houses out of 130 registered, conducted energy and water audits. The focus groups revealed that operators understand sustainability but feels their efforts alone aren't enough. Guests play a major role. Operators said sustainable options are expensive and financing is a barrier. Smaller operators feel overshadowed by bigger hotels. These findings directly inform where we need to focus the support. And beyond the Energy and Water Agency and the revenue management feeds and tariffs for solar PVs, we have also Transport Malta, who runs the EV purchase set schemes, and the retrofit EU scheme under Malta's Recovery and Resilience Plan offers up to 5 million per undertaking for building energy efficiency upgrades. So let me go through some of our hotel projects that some I already mentioned. I will skip them because by now you should have also got used to them. I will concentrate on MHRA collection. The MHRA was pioneered for doing the farm to fork with homegrown produce. I wanted to show you some more information about this because this is quite an interesting project. So if you give me one time, I get it here. I managed to get the presentation of MHRA. So basically, they are looking at zero waste system. So just one second. So as you can see, this is a place which is just further down from Mdina, which is the old capital city. And Malta is quite, dependent of importing everything from abroad because, as you are aware, it is an island and the fields, the agriculture is quite limited. And that makes us vulnerable. It's fuel prices, supply disruptions, and climate shocks, For a luxury hotel, it also means ingredient quality fluctuates. So in 2021, the MHRA Group family made a bold investment. They built a regenerative farm, not a token herb garden. A serious agricultural operational integrated into their culinary operations. And in 2022, they won the Mediterranean Tourism Foundation, my foundation, Innovation Sustainability Award for it. One word, what do you think is the biggest benefit? So looking at this, they have a regenerative agricultural which goes beyond sustainable. Sustainable means do not harm. Regenerative means actively heal. Every season, the soil gets better, more carbon rich, more water retentive, more alive. At MHRA Gardens, they are not just growing vegetables, they are building soil. And in Malta, where topsoil is precious and water is scarce, that's revolutionary. Companion planting is an ancient technique. Plant basil next to tomatoes. The basil repels aphids. Plant marigolds near vegetables. They deter the insects, MHRA Gardens uses zero chemical pesticides. Instead, they let nature do the work. And when a tomato plant is healthier because the soil is alive with microbes, it tastes better. And this is the whole concept that there is, I don't want to go very technical, because it's quite a demanding project, but it's quite, interesting. Just wanted to give you an overview of this quite a big project that they are doing, and it's quite interesting. And who is in Malta, he should go and visit it. It's next to the MHRA Lodge hall, which is quite a venue where a lot of meetings are held, and it's just opposite this venue, So let me continue. So let's be honest about the challenges. For EAW to guest focus operators, a lot of quotes came out from this. And the Detox project found that Malta lacks a defined baseline for decarbonization hospitality. There's insufficient energy and emissions data at property levels, and only 8% of hotels, as I already mentioned, about 25 out of 321 are certified under any EU eco label. Many are sustainability willing, but certification ready is another matter entirely. Technical advice during property conversions is often inadequate, and the EWA audits found issues like buildings with no pipework insulation, dark rooftop membranes absorbing heat, electrical installations not designed for retrofit controls, and water heaters left running in vacant rooms. So these are issues that are the barriers that are here that we need to look into. And these challenges have to be, the most challenging is how to direct the properties, how to direct the investors into the right direction, how to do these challenges. So now let me introduce the Malta Tourism Authority, and I have a small Malta Tourism Foundation, the Mediterranean Tourism Foundation that I am part here representing with a small video. So that was a video of last November Mediterranean Tourism Forum 2025, which was held at Hilton in Malta. It was the 10th edition of this forum that we've been doing. and over 1,400 delegates participate in this forum. As I mentioned already, the Mediterranean Tourism Foundation was established by MHRA in 2013 and is a non-profit NGO focused on sustainable tourism growth across the Mediterranean region. Our most impactful contribution was commissioning, as I mentioned already, with MHRA, the carrying capacity study conducted by Deloitte, and which came out with quite astonishing results of that Malta needs 4.7 million arrivals for 80% occupancy, and that was for the hotels which are on the pipeline of being constructed. So within the next 3 to 4 years, we need 4.7 million for 80% occupancy. 80% occupancy means that the hotel is struggling to break even, you know. So it's not something that it's just the survival pattern of the hotel. And remember that they cannot increase rates because this is a global competition. Every country is competing for the same tourists. So when you are planning to travel, you look at connectivity, and Malta connectivity is only mainly by air, and you look to rates. And a lot of people, you know, will start comparing which is the easiest flight that I need to catch, what is the rate, and these are the first thing that you do, I think most of you, when you are planning your holiday, when you are traveling abroad. Which one fits best to my 3 days, my holidays, which one is the shortest one, how long is the connection, how long is the flight, and what is the rate that I'm going to stay. Okay, you have different categories of hotels, but after all, that is something that Malta is not in its own box, you know, it's not in the same balloon, you know, this is a competition, especially around the Mediterranean region. As also some of you, I'm seeing some names here, we also did a few years ago the MACWIM project. We have some delegates on NEC participating. I'm seeing Tamara. There should be also others who I'm not seeing right now from my screen, who participated in the MACWIM project. The MACWIM project was related to marina managers qualifications. It was filling the gap that many, you know, you don't find courses to apply and be certified as a marina manager. And it's very important that marina managers are today certified and know how also to be sustainable and manage a sustainable marina. And these are things that were missing, and together with Italy, Albania, and Greece, we have done this project. And I'm happy to say that the project was very successful, and the partners and even the participants were all satisfied with this type of project. And as we are doing right now, the current project is the C project, which you all know and you've been hearing a lot. I don't think that I need to explain more on this. So how does Malta compare to other Mediterranean destinations in our Sea Consortium? The slide shows a comparison table across Malta, Turkey, Italy, and Spain. What makes Malta unique is the micro-island context, 316 square kilometers versus Turkey, 783,000, or Spain, 506,000. Every issue is compressed and amplified. Malta's key challenge is water scarcity combined with density. Turkey faces mass tourism and heritage challenges. Italy battles over-tourism specific cities. Spain deals with coastal degradation. On certification, Malta's priority is GSTC through the MHRA partnership. Turkey is moving towards mandatory sustainability certification by 2030. Italy has a stronger EU eco-label footprint. Spain leads on biosphere and EMAS. Malta has a distinctive advantage on the OECD partnership. The 37 indicator toolkit gives it arguably the best evidence base of any small island destination. And Gozo has extra incentives, a 20% top-up on Malta Enterprise Grant, recognizing the double peripherality of island with an island tourism. Now let's examine how carbon neutrality policies and environmental challenges differ across our C consortium countries. Understanding these differences is critical because one size does not fit all when it comes to sustainability pathways. First, we start with the policy approach to carbon neutrality. Malta's approach, voluntary certification with financial investments. Malta has committed to carbon neutrality by 2050 for all 321 licensed hotels. Our model is voluntary but incentivized. We're not mandating immediate compliance, but we're making it financially attractive through Malta Enterprise, as I already mentioned, offering up to 50% co-funding for energy efficiency projects, with an additional 10 to 20% top-up for GOZO properties. We've tripled our renewable energy share to 17.2% in 2024 compared to a decade ago. The SANEX Malta Climate Friendly Travel Registry launched in 2020 allows hotels to publicly showcase their carbon commitments. Our advantage, as a macro state, we can move faster on policy implementation. Malta is a living laboratory for testing models that can scale across the Mediterranean. I will leave the others, Turkey and through the others, that you will be covering on this module. Okay. So Malta's compact geography allows centralized decision-making and rapid policy shifts. The lessons for SMEs: there is no universal blueprint. Success depends on matching the certification pathway to local context, capacity, and regulatory environment. Malta's voluntary incentive model works because we have high grant rates and concentrated geography. And this is quite an interesting concept that we're working on. This slide is your reference sheet. I won't read every link, but I want to highlight the most important ones for your work as trainers. For policy, the Malta Tourism Authority, as I already mentioned. For financial schemes, Malta Enterprise, or the Energy and Water Agency. For certifications, we have the GSTC, the Green Key, and the EU Ecolabel. So I encourage you to bookmark these information and share them with when you are doing as future trainers, after being certified, with the SMEs that you will be working with. Access this information is one of the top priorities that our SMEs, our industries, our commerce people, are finding problems, and this is what you should look into to facilitate this connection between the industry and the sustainability support. As I mentioned, the Mediterranean Tourism Forum was held last year. In November, we had the 10th edition. It was held at the Malta Hilton Hotel. It brought over 1,450 delegates from 32 countries across all continents. Last year, the theme was Mediterranean Sea, coincidentally the same as our project, but it meant sustainability, experience, and AI, artificial intelligence. The forum was not a single event. It was an ecosystem of 20 components, a 2-day research and policy conference with 63 research papers and 33 speakers. Forbes Travel Guide training for 160 trainees, 15 brain think tank sessions with 350 participants, 8 master classes with 950 delegates and 45 panelists. And also we had the Mediterranean Tourism Awards conferred by the President of the Republic of Malta, a B2B exhibition, and international competitions. We had Waiter of the Year, Receptionist of the Year, Housekeeping Attendant of the Year, and Culinary Arts. And also we've had the Gala Night completed with a Mediterranean Stars concert, which will be broadcasted by RAI and PBS. The PBS is the Malta National Television. The forum produced tangible outputs, policy recommendations, strategic partnerships, pilot projects, and a SWOT analysis that positions the forum as the most important global conference focused on Mediterranean tourism. In the year 2024, during the forum of that year, we have commissioned Deloitte, which facilitated 2 specific experts workshops. And these experts had site visits and brainstorming workshops, one in Valletta and the next one in Paceville, which are the heavy demanding areas within the Maltese island. With over 60 speakers and 1,500 delegates from 35 countries, the findings were significant. Valletta faces congestion during peak seasons, heritage erosion from unregulated commercial activities straining UNESCO sites, local displacement as rising property prices push residents out, and an identity crisis where loss of cultural authenticity creates commercialized tourism zone. The recommendations were clear. Fragmented governance with multiple authorities operating in silos is the root cause. The solution requires coordinated actions across planning, heritage, transport, and tourism authorities. And now we turn on Paceville. Paceville presents a different but equally urgent set of challenges. It's known as a cheap party zone, which actively deters high-value tourists. There's drug activity, petty crime, and weak law enforcement. 9 major development projects with no holistic zoning plan. Traffic, waste, drainage, and noise pollution. The strategic recommendation from the Deloitte facilitated sessions rebrand from party zone to cosmopolitan entertainment hub with quality dining and cultural events. Create a dedicated governance body for Paceville. Separate nightlife zones from residential and hotel zones, and invest in infrastructure before approving further development. This is a real-world case study of what happens when tourist growth outpaces sustainable urban planning. And another project and this is the last slide, so we'll be in time for our... exactly. The STAR journey is now in its 5th year. This is an agreement that we did between the Malta Tourism Foundation, the Mediterranean Tourism Foundation, and the Forbes Travel Guide, setting Malta as a quality tourism destination. STAR stands for 4 pillars: sustainability, tutorship, accommodation, and restaurants. In 2025, 4,098 hospitality participants were trained across multiple sessions during the months of February, March, October, and November. The demand for sustainability leadership training was so high, it merited 2 online programs plus a face-to-face executive program. The October session alone trained over 2,000 participants. And we also do the mystery guest program, which is not just for hotels, but also for our restaurant quality assessment initiative, which has a set of new benchmarks for culinary excellence in Malta. So here you can see the 2025 top-rated hotels, and also there were over 97 restaurants which participated in this program. And that's something which is quite achievable and important for our industry. The critical point for our sustainable discussion, the 2025 Hospitality Sustainability Program proved that responsible hospitality and service excellence are mutually reinforcing. So to close, sustainability in Malta is a theoretical exercise. It's a daily reality for operators on an island of 316 square kilometers hosting 4 million visitors. The tool exists: 3 internationally recognized certifications, financial incentives from Malta Enterprise and other entities, a national strategy aligned with EOACD, and then growing community of pioneering operators showing it can be done. The C project vision captures it perfectly. Sustainability should be accessible, practical, and achievable for everyone. Our job as trainers, consultants, and foundations is to bridge the gap between willing operators and the certification systems, funding mechanisms, and knowledge they need. Thank you for your attention, and if there's any questions, let me know.